Moving onward to our next session, that is panel discussion, operationalizing the CX, preparing for the unpredictable future in advance. Operationalizing the CX, preparing for the unpredictable future in advance. I introduce our moderator, Mr. Shani Choudhary, Principal Sales Engineer at Uniphore. Mr. Sunny Choudhary has over 16 years of experience in building strong digital landscapes and empowering customers through self-service initiatives. With a focus on enhancing customer experience, especially in BFSI, he advises partners and customers on leveraging AI for improved efficiency and innovations. Also invite the fellow panelists, Mr. Jitendra Bhardwaj, CISO of Tata Advanced Systems Limited, Ms. Aneela Sinha, Vice President of Operations at Aviva, India, Mr. Aakash Kumar, Vice President of User Experience at MakeMyTrip, Mr. Rajesh Bhardwaj, Head of Operations Control at Medanta, Ms. Neeraja Sharma, Head of Customer Service and Operations, Sleep and Respiratory Care, Philips. I request our moderator and fellow panelists to please join us on the dais. Can we have a huge round of applause, please?
Hi, morning everyone. All right, so we'll kickstart the session. Just going to start to talk about what are we going to discuss in next plan I. It's about how do you operationalize your customer experience, right? How do you prepare yourself for the unpredictable future, right? Right, so we have an entire team right here to talk about it, right? And we'll probably hear it from the leaders to share their experience in terms of whether it is a use of technology, right? Or do more of advanced data analytics, right? Or trying to get more insights onto your customers, right? What is the right strategy to kind of operationalize the customer experience part of it, right? Having said that, right, so my first question is for Mr. Rajesh Bhardwaj, right? So the question is, how can organizations effectively anticipate and prepare for unpredictable changes in customer behavior and expectations?
Well, I would say it all depends on understanding the customer requirements, the expectations, the positive things which customer is looking for. And once we have all of that information, then accordingly put our marketing campaigns in place, strategize things accordingly, and continuously look for opportunities where we can gain more confidence from the customer in our brand, in our products, in our services, and it's a continuous process.
Okay, so I think few of the valid points, right? And just to kind of expand more on it, right? Okay, so just to kind of add to it, right? How do you basically build on that experience part you just spoke about, right? How do you look at those data and how do you do it? If you can share it, some of your experience, right? I think that should be helpful.
So this customer data that we capture, it is in different forms from different sources. It can be from our website, from our app, from our customer interactions over calls, emails, chats. Once we have captured all of that information, then we can use the artificial intelligence and different tools which are available in the market and then strategize things according to the same inputs that we receive.
All right, okay, thank you. All right, so we move to the next and we move to Mr. Aakash. So Mr. Aakash, the next question for you is, what role does data analytics and predictive modeling play in anticipating future CX trends and demands?
So data analytics basically gives an opportunity to an organization to analyze huge volumes of consumer data, right? Like it's coming from multiple sources. It could be interactions on your website, it could be transactions, and also feedback. So what happens is, like, once you deeply analyze this data and actually corroborate it with qualitative research, you get great insights about the pain points, the requirements, and the preferences of the user, right? Like, and let me take some examples. What we do at MakeMyTrip in this regard is, like, so say for example, if you're looking for a hotel, right, we have consumer data, and what you can do is that you can basis the search history, basis previous bookings, we can actually, out of let's say thousands of hotels in Delhi, we can actually push hotels which are you are more likely to buy. That makes the journey of the user much easier, right? Like so, and your preferences will be different from my preferences to Sunny's preferences, kind of, right? Like, and that is the power of data, wherein like you can bring in that kind of personalized experience. Similarly, let's say you have booked a flight from Delhi to Mumbai. Now, what is the next pain point as a user, right? In all probability, if it is not your hometown, you would be looking for a hotel. How do I make that next step of the user slightly more easy, right? Like, so can I pitch in hotel at the right point of time? And what time do I pitch hotel and what time do I pitch a cab booking, right? Like in travel, we have all those things. So those are the kind of things which we can achieve through data analytics and predictive modeling.
So I think that's a great point, right? Just building on, right?
Yeah.
While I think you talked a great point in terms of how do you trying to give that personal experience, right? Now, when you talk when a customer is in need and he's trying to reach out to your agents on the contact center, right? How do you ensure your agents are trained, they have that bit of empathy, they have that bit of understanding in terms of how do they need to, talk to certain needs. The customer might be in some pain, he might be having some challenges. Right?
Absolutely, I absolutely bang on. So I spoke about the B2C or the customer point of it, but this is an excellent point that Sunny brings in. When you call an agent, right? Like, so, okay, this agent could be sitting anywhere across the country, kind of, right? Like, and you have a problem. You are having an interaction going on with the company, which is MakeMyTrip at this point of time. So when the agent gets a call, the agent should have the history of what the user has already done overall, kind of, right? Like, so that history has to be there. And then through generative AI, GPT, and all those things, we also analyze the mood, the sentiment of the customer, right? Like, so what stage of frustration or happiness कम होती है, frustration ही ज़्यादा होती है जब आप call करते हैं, but what stage the customer is at, right? Like, and what kind of next action should be planned for that customer. So that is something which is immensely important.
Thank you, Aakash. So we now move to Neeraja Sharma. So my question for you, Neeraja, is how can companies balance agility and stability in their CX strategies to adapt quickly to changing customer demands?
Right. So clearly, companies and organizations who are constantly evolving are better equipped to handle the ever-changing customer needs. That's the key, right? And also one needs to revisit and prioritize and build higher level of responsiveness as well as innovation in your CX strategy. That's very, very critical. Thirdly, revisiting all your operational processes, people development, technology adoption, organization strategy is very important because eventually we aim to keep customer at the core of everything that we do at an organization level. And organizations needs to see people as very effective network of high performing teams who are keeping customers at the core as well as ensuring collaboratively they are delivering on a quality service, right? Also, one of the key takes that I have from my organization is to, and since I represent a medical tech organization, Health Systems, one of the key takes is that you need to, keep a broader spectrum of your team members across functions closer to your customers. Why? You need to give them access. They need to identify how their individual work is impacting a customer need, right? So that is there. Also, if we go by research, McKinsey did a research, covering almost 2,000 organizations who had taken up transformational projects. And that's why I started with evolving, organizations who are constantly, trying to meet up. And the results were that only 10% of organizations who actually took up seriously these transformational projects, were able to deliver on productivity which is higher than 30%, customer engagement higher than 30%, speed increasing by almost 5 to 10%, and also people engagement in their organization has also increased because they see the outcome of the customer feedback, right, which goes and reflects a lot of the work that they have done for the organization. And clearly, in last 3-4 years with COVID, we have seen how, as organizations leave, bending backwards to accommodate these higher needs of customers, which earlier was not possible. But COVID actually taught us how to meet to the expectations, higher level of expectations of the customers. And we have done those services and gone way beyond our earlier protocols to deliver to their needs. So that's something that is key for ever changing, meeting the ever changing expectations of our customers.
So that's a great response. So I think few takeaways for me definitely is, of course, because you're talking from a Meditech, the processes are very, very complex. We understand that, right? And so in terms of the way you're managing that, right? But one important point I think that you spoke about is more on the employee experience part of it, right? Now, basically, when you look at the overall CX, the employee experience comes in becomes very, very important. And I'm glad you spoke a lot about the employee experience in terms of how you're keeping your employees at the core of the customer interactions and giving them that path to kind of interact more with them and keeping that bit of handy. And so great work there. Thank you so much for that. I'll come back for the next question to you. So moving to the Aneela Sinha, right? While we look at the customer experience, we look at the data, we look at a lot of stuff. There are a lot of regulatory stuff that keeps going on, right? Wherein we're expected to, even if the use of AI and the technology, we're expected to adhere to most of the regulatory and compliance, right? So having said that, how do you see regulatory changes and compliance requirements impacting the operationalization of customer experience?
Thank you, Sunny, for the question. It's a very pertinent question for me because I come from an industry which is highly regulated. Well, any regulatory change has a significant impact on customer service strategies. And just to give you one feeler, basically any regulation gives a directive to the industry on how they're supposed to operate, that it lays down a norm or minimum thresholds of service standards which need to be followed. Just to give one example, like in insurance industry, we have a guideline which ensures protection of policyholders' interest. And recently, effective from 1st of April, we've had drastic changes made by the regulator and which has to be implemented in a short period of, say, 1 month. So the SLAs have been slashed to 50%. And this is a massive change. So you need to have systems which are agile and flexible to adopt very fast to these changing needs. And obviously, since servicing becomes a differentiator in the industry, there would be many industry players who would not limit themselves to this 7-day stat, but they would also go beyond that and reduce it further. Apart from this, there are also requirement to ensure adherence to communication regulations, because many of the regulators are very clear about what are the disclaimers you need to give to the customers, what is the in fact, they go to that level of what font size it should be. It should not be too small that the customer is not able to read it. So obviously, these things have to be adhered to. Moving forward, there are also financial implications here because especially in banking and insurance industry, we are regulated very strictly by the norms of how the reporting has to be done, how financial transactions have to be monitored. So obviously, the strategies have to be adhered to without making the process very cumbersome for the customer. The experience should not be compromised, but at the same time, we also adhere to the regulatory needs. And more importantly, since in our industry, we handle a lot of customer data, that's personal information. And data security is a big risk these days. A single breach with the data privacy law can impose you a very severe penalty. Leave aside the penalty. Actually, it breaches the trust of the customer, and we have to work on the loyalty of the customer. So I think these are the areas where we need to work upon. And every regulation obviously throws up new challenges or forces you to relook at the existing risks which you have. So obviously alignment to all these things without compromising on seamless and consistent delivery is what we look at.
Correct. So just staying on to what you said, right? So you spoke a pertinent point in terms of how do you need to, keep adhere to certain regulatory changes that are happening. But do you really think, in your experience, right? Does it somewhere impact the customer experience because the process which is applicable today may not be there tomorrow, right? But you really think that that really impacts the customer experience either positively or negatively?
It does, and it does so positively because even the regulator is aware of the changing needs of the customer, and they're also trying to adapt and adopt new regulations and guidelines, and they also keep the customer in the forefront. So obviously, when the customer is on the forefront, the regulations are always towards favoring the customer. Many a times we feel, my God, we have to do so many things, but then at the end of the day, it is the customer for whom we stand for.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to you, sir, Jitendra. So my question to you is, what are the risks associated with over-reliance on technology in customer experience operations, and how do you see that can be mitigated?
Yeah, thank you, Sunny, for the question. Uh, of course, I think there's a lot of technology we talk about nowadays, and we look at any part of our operation, it has been automated, and we use the technology there. When you look at the customer experience, there are 4 things which you look into that. In my view, one is the knowledge we acquire through the customer interaction, knowledge we acquire through the internal operation which have been there. Then how do we convert this knowledge into responsiveness? Okay, our people, how they respond to that, which is there. Okay, and then talk about the empathy. All this result into the empathy to the customer when customer calls you or customer interact with any of the channel, any interaction which have been there. So when you talk about the knowledge, how to collect knowledge, how to gather knowledge, how to create the knowledge base for the, to deal with this kind of interaction, I think the technology come into the picture, and it has done a great, I think, help and support to all the operation, any industry we talk about. I think we talk about the data analytics nowadays. Every time we talk about the AI, I think the previous presentation made by the Aditya and the other presenter which have been there talks about that, how technology help us. But end of the day, when we do the customer experience, it's all about the empathy, okay, how we treat our customer, okay, how he feels. It is an emotional connect which have been there. Do we connect with the empathy there? I think that is one area when we do the over-reliance on the technology. I think that piece goes missing sometimes. I'm not say always, which have been there, because then we look at technology. Look at, I think mostly nowadays, any interaction which you do with any utility service provider, any provider for that matter, I think going through the IVR, in this industry in the last 30 years, I'm seeing that 20 years back, there was 25 years, there was no IVR. There used to be, normally people used to call them. Of course, response was slow, but nowadays the IVR process sometimes is so frustrating. I think the customer lose that interest. And the technology is there, all the data is there, and I think you can get the automated response which have been there. So I think we need to find a balance in both ways. Of course, over-reliance on the technology is also not, I would say, create the good customer experience. It creates a consistency. But when you talk about the customer experience, it is always improving every day, continuous improvement, because you need something better, because you're already set the bar for something. If you're doing something more, then you'll be, I think, distinguished. That will be USP in the service market for yourself. So in my view, it should be balanced between the human touch as well as the customer experience, because in India particularly, not India, abroad also, end of the day, you would like to have that human touch somewhere when you're in the stress which have been there. So that is my view, Sunny.
Thanks. I think so that's something which really comes that will there be ever a point that human can be replaced completely? I don't think so that's going to be there. But I have just a follow-up question to you. Right. So the kind of technology trends which are coming in, right? Some of them are very, very fascinating, right? The enterprises really wants to adopt them, right? What is your take on that, right? How do you ensure that balance, right? How do you decide upon which technology is going to be best, irrespective the enterprise or the market is using that or not? So how do you decide on that?
See, technology by its own is not good or bad, okay? It depends on the kind of industry you are in. It depends on kind of customer you are dealing with, that is one. And what is the basically, I'll not put in that way that, what is the level of the customer we are talking about? If you are servicing, rural market which have been there, you need to look at the technology which is helping them. It is not a self-serving technology which you can look into that, because they need a lot of support. They may not basically go to that level that they can do the self-service of their own. So you need to have supporting technology which have been there. In case of the urban, or when you talk to basically Gen X or Gen Z, when we talk about, they don't require any support. They don't want to talk to anybody. They want to self-service. They would like to order their food, I think, online. They don't want any recommendation from somewhere else which have been there. So I think based on the customer uh, base which you are managing, that is one. That is important. Second is the level of technology adoption within the organization also. Okay, you need to look at that also. Of course, customer may expect X, Y, Z, but each technology has a investment cost, and there is a redundancy. Over a time, the technology keep on changing, I think. We recently heard that thing. You talk about the new data protection law which has come. I think in the Europe, GDPR is already been there, and that has put a lot of restriction on the data, how you basically manage the data. On one hand, on the customer experience, we'll talk about that we need to have all the information about the customer and how we use that information. But the data protection law across the globe, I'm talking about, not every, I think most of the organizations got a global operation right now. It put you basically owners how to manage the data. So you can't use all the data also. Okay, so in that way, I think it depends on the kind of market which you work, kind of customer in the market you operate in this thing, and the level of basically the automation and the technology adoption within the organization, all these things. Sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your response. Mr. Rajesh, I'll turn back to you for the next question. So my next question is, what are the key challenges in operationalizing customer experience strategies, specifically in industries who are prone to rapid shifts?
While it's important to capture all the customer data that we have been talking about for last 1 hour, it is equally important to ensure we are not capturing any any inaccurate or incomplete information. Use that in our marketing strategy, because the output of all these incorrect or incomplete information can be even more, can lead to even worst for the business. So it is very, very important that we ensure that our product teams, our marketing strategies are in line with what the customer data speaks, and accordingly then the information should be floated down to different departments, especially customer experience team, the contact center teams, which in turn should again be providing information as an input to different departments back to the product team, that this is what the customers are reporting as a problem, as a bug, or maybe as a service complaint again and again. And accordingly, our business strategies should change. If this is not done, what we are trying to improve, we can even worsen the situation. That's the biggest challenge, I believe.
All right. So I think you made a great point when you say you're not only capturing on the customer feedback, but you're also ensuring that customer feedback is ingested back into your processes, and then you're able to tailor that, change that as per the customer need. I think that's a great point. Thank you so much for that. Moving on, I'll again move to Mr. Aakash. My next question to you is, how can AI and machine learning technologies be leveraged to enhance predictive capabilities and personalize customer experiences?
Yeah, so AI pretty much is the buzzword right now, right? Like no conference, no event happens without AI being called out. You guys see the boards out there, the display boards out there. Every company is going through AI, and it's the reality, and it's a good thing that is there, right? Like so, and to be very honest, it's really more than just a buzzword. It is something which is going to be there, kind of, and how do we leverage it will actually define how well we'll be able to service our customers, right? Like so, previously we were talking about how agents handle customer calls, and see, be it a loyal customer, a new customer, or whosoever, right? Like if the customer is calling an organization, the reason would be he or she has some kind of a requirement. High chances some kind of a pain or a trouble that he or she is facing. And now it is up to the organization. I say organization because agents will be different. You'll have different agents out there. As an organization, it is up to you how well can you address the customer over there, right? And that defines whether the customer sticks with you or drops off or falls off, kind of, right? Like, so over there, this AI thing actually plays a very strong role, because through AI, through the data that you get from the customer and similar cohorts, right, you can actually provide a much, much, much personalized kind of an experience to the end user. So let me tell you a bit about it. So at MakeMyTrip, we have been at it for the last, let's say 6, 7, 8 years kind of, right? Like analyzing data, machine learning and stuff like that. Now with generative AI coming in, it has gone a notch ahead kind of overall. So what we do right now, let me again give you an example around this, right? Like so with Gen AI, there are two kind of things that are happening. One is analysis, wherein like summarization, so that's a powerful tool again that we use, right? Like so again, let's say you are looking for a hotel, and if you are looking for a hotel, you typically, if you are going for vacation, you are not worried about feedback coming from a business user who's staying there at that hotel kind of, right? So now through Gen AI, what we can do, and which we currently do, is we actually create a summary of feedback or reviews from vacation going people, similar cohort people, which is relevant to you. So rather than going through all the reviews, you can just read that one paragraph, which gives you a very powerful insight whether this hotel is for you or not, kind of, right? So that becomes a powerful tool. Now, another part of Gen AI, which is very strong right now, right? Like everyone is getting into this chat. So basically bot-driven chat kind of. Again, a powerful tool for customer experience, right? Because you have limited number of agents. How well can you address the user's problems is defined by how much of it can be handled by the bot, and only the people who cannot be handled by the bot can be directed to the human agent, so that you are able to address the customers much in a better way, right? Like, so say for example in flights right now, if you are booking a flight, we have a separate channel. So people have different kinds of requirements, right? And different kinds of tech literacy. So now some people are very comfortable with online booking, some people are not. So for people who are not very comfortable, you can actually go ahead and talk to the bot, and the bot can actually help you select the flight for you, kind of, right? Like that also is an added advantage. You don't have to talk to a agent and get your flight booked. It's the bot which can easily do that for you. So those kind of the things are there which will add a lot of value.
Thank you. Thanks, Aakash. Thanks for your response. So we'll move to Neeraja again. So Neeraja, the question for you now is, what do you see are the best practices for integrating customer feedback loops into the operation process for continuous improvement?
All right. So evolved organizations have adopted technology and customer feedback, integrated them, and actually brought the insights in their quarterly meetings, right? Where the sales, marketing, account management team, business development teams have, leveraged those insights for their future planning. And it is being done on a quarter by quarter basis, right? So that is one. Second, I've also seen organizations now also share proactively with the entire workforce the customer relationship health, right? The NPS surveys that have happened, the key accounts that they have won because of the customer feedback and responses that they have got in the market. And that is also a matter of pride for the employees within the organization, right? And scope for them to improve better. Thirdly, I also feel lot lies on the kind of leadership that is there within the organization, because I have experienced few leaders who at the time of recruitment also ask questions like, how many QOLs do you know personally, irrespective of the level of experience that the employee brings in, which reflects a lot, about that potential employee, whether he is customer centric or not. Right? So these are the few measures, key measures that will go a long way in building and taking the feedback of customer for better advancement and improvement, because holistically the organization will keep customer first. Their approach will always be customer first, and that's how they will grow.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I'll turn it over to Ms. Aneela. So my question for you is, what strategies can organization use to align internal departments and teams to deliver a seamless and a consistent customer experience?
Well, there are multiple strategies which can be adopted, and basically all these teams have to work consistently to ensure seamless customer satisfaction is achieved at the end of the day. And to achieve this, we need to have combination of strategies which fosters collaboration, communication, and customer-centric value. The first and foremost thing I think is every organization should have a very clear customer-centric vision, and this has to be drilled down to the lowest rung of employees so that everyone is aware of what is the expectation and what we stand for. This also needs to be, the leadership team has to walk the talk. They have to keep motivating people and demonstrating that they firmly believe in this value. Apart from that, I think another important aspect is breaking down the silos, because we have various departments which are involved in a single process. So for example, if a customer service executive who's facing the customer, he makes a promise. He's depending on the backend team to deliver it. Hence, it is very important that all these teams collaborate together, and very clear-cut accountability and responsibilities need to be defined. The goals have to be aligned, and a lot of cross-functional teams need to work together to bring this exceptional customer outcome. Apart from that, I think we also need to invest in the development of these teams. We need to ensure they are we upskill their knowledge, and they are up to date with what is happening not only in the industry but across other industries as well, because it is always good to adopt best practices. Something which is good in banking sector could be good for us, or in a telecom sector can also be adopted in a modified way which suits us. And recognition is another important thing which motivates everyone. Every employee would like to be motivated. So if you acknowledge and people who have gone that extra mile, who have gone beyond their duties or roles and delivered exceptional customer outcomes, I think they need to be acknowledged. I think that's what I would like to add.
Great point. I think one of the key things away from me from this is how do you basically ensure the external focus, which is very, very important. You need to look beyond your boundaries in terms of what are the best practices happening across the enterprises, and why not? I mean, why can't we just ingest them into our side of business as well? Thank you for your comments. So my last question is for you, Mr. Jitendra. So the question is, how do cultural shifts and leadership buy-in contribute to successful customer experience operationalization?
Yeah, interesting question. So I'll give you an example. In my previous organization, one of the previous organizations, I worked in the many organizations which have been there. We use the, everybody use the KPI for the customer experience, NPS or the feedback form or the CISO form, everybody does that thing. We also used to do it, okay? And we used to get a very good NPS. It's not that it's a bad NPS, it's a good NPS. At the end of 60, okay, which is considered to be very, I think, decent one in the industry, IT industry which are working there. But still we are losing out our customer to the competition. NPS is great, we got a good feedback mechanism. So there's a lot of discussion what is happening kind of thing which have been there. So at that point, the leadership team get into the causal analysis, what is the reason for that? If you see when you talk about customer experience, industry is moving, I'm talking about the IT industry for that matter, from the product to the service kind of a scenario which have been there. Earlier company used to sell licenses and then they moved that license to cloud and now it becomes services. A great example is Microsoft. Now you can't buy the, email licenses. It is go to O365. It is a service only which have been there. So there's a lot of discussion which happening. So what we found, I think, a couple of interesting points which have been there. One, it is important to take the feedback who was giving the feedback, but there are a larger number of people who doesn't give the feedback. I think that is much more important for any leadership to look into that. If we are asking the feedback from our customer, what is the percentage we are responding to? Like in the, I think, internal, most of the HR people will tell you, HR head will tell you, the employee who doesn't talk to you, it means he's on verge of leaving, okay? There's much attrition happening from there. At least who talks to you, he's still wanted to resolve the things. Same thing happened with the customer, I think that is the one learning which have been there. Subsequently, to basically address that situation, there was a discussion happened that we will do a, a training organization-wide. It is a 15,000 people company which have been there. The best thing which is done, I think that the training start from the top itself, the chairman and the CEO and everything. They say first we will go through the training. Most of the scenario when we see, I think the leadership scenario, that is not for me. It is for the, the front-facing team which require the training which have been there. And I think a very, very interesting point which has been raised, I think, by Aneela just now. It is not only the customer-facing team on the top, it is across the organization. Because end of the day, until the back office and the front office work together, okay, you can't create the customer experience, okay? You can only manage the customer to a certain level, but the experience will not be there. And looking at the industry right now, as I talked about, it is moving to the service industry. Each, I think, product is becoming a service right now. IT specifically with the cloud and everything. You need to have some USP on your services. You need to continuously improve your services. It is not only what others are doing. It will not give you basically the, the market leading position or the market share which have been there. That's why I think the service mindset when we talk about, or the customer centricity from the leadership comes in the picture. And I think that is so important for any organization for that matter nowadays.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And just to conclude in terms of my learnings for the day, to be honest, so you talked great about the technology part in terms of how to effectively use technology, how to ensure the right technology fits in, and it's more aligned towards the organization read rather than trying to capture some bit of it. Mami spoke about the compliance and how do you fall on the best practices, right? Aakash, I think from you, the personalization thing that you talked about and how effectively you ingest the AI and ML, how effectively you use that data is something, it's a great learning for me as well today, right? Rajesh, like you spoke about how effectively the process can be, how do you ensure you're capturing those feedback, but how do you use those feedbacks to improve on the process so that you're able to effectively deliver on the customer experience next part? So learning there. And Neeraja, I think you spoke a lot in terms of the employee experience, the complexity of the processes that really resides, and how do you ensure those processes are being met, those constant changes are being ingested into the organization. I think great insights on that, right? So I think with that, thank you so much, everyone. I think we have some time left, and if audience has any questions for any of our panelists, please feel free to ask those questions.
Hello, hi everyone. I'm Rajesh Kushwaha. I'm representing the Tower fraternity here. And my question to the panelists, any of one give that answer. Since we are talking about Gen AI and technology, so I have experienced with the customer while we are interacting with. So they are not more interested to give their feedback over platforms which is available in terms of WhatsApp or chatbot, or while we are pushing them to put their experience and services by scaling up on a star basis rating. So what you feel and what is your suggestion how we can go ahead with that to make their more open to give that feedback as a practices? Because earlier we have written confirmation or feedback from them, so they were not interested to do so. And once we move into the platforms of technology, so we had a lot of challenges once they are not putting 100% feedback on that. So what is your thought and what kind of solution you can probably give to us so it can be more comprehensive feedback and it can be articulated to our business point of view or making the customer experiences? Thank you.
Can I take?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so a very interesting question out there. Sorry, I forgot your name.
Rajesh Kushwaha.
Yeah, Rajesh. So very interesting point, and I think this is something which, again, we are learning as we move ahead. Something which I have realized and we have been trying to figure out and have figured out to some level is finding the right time when you ask for that feedback kind of, right? Like, so that becomes the most, and with technology, now you have that advantage that you can reach out to the customer at any given point of time, right? Like, so you just have to find that, and it will vary for industry to industry, it will vary from business to business, and within businesses also from issue to issue kind of a thing, right? Like, that is something which we need to work upon as people from the industry, that which is the right moment when the customer is most likely to give you that kind of a feedback. So technology wise, it is the right thing. You mentioned rightly that previously we used to have those written ones. Half the time they were forced. You go to a restaurant, you'll suddenly get a feedback form, and aap kya karo usme? Matlab, you'll have to fill in something kind of, right? Until unless you have had a really bad experience, you'll give good feedback only and get on with it kind of, right? So if you are able to find the right moment, the right trigger point, that is the success mantra that you can have.
Okay, thank you, Aakash. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Mayank Mittal here from Indifi Financials. We are a fintech into MSME lending space. So my question is a bit more detailed to the panelist and also to Aditya here from Salesforce. So there is a problem whenever you are trying to make a model learn on your data. The centralized model is getting learned. The solution you will say is the federated learning model. Just wanted to understand from all of you guys, you are into regulated industries apart from MakeMyTrip here or the e-commerce. All the other industries today in India are regulated, GDPR compliance is required, data protection is required, and more so you also want to protect your learning and doesn't want to get it transferred to the centralized model. Have any of you been able to implement a federated learning model on any of the large LLM models? And question goes to Salesforce, is that the solution that you are providing, are you providing that model easy to implement where the learnings can be recognized and be monetized?
So I won't take the answer. I'll let someone else answer this one. Maybe Aditya can also answer. But MMT also is regulated. We are also bound by GDPR. So recently there was this news that now with 150 more countries we are there. So we are compliant to that. We have to be compliant kind of, yeah. Please.
Sure. Yeah, I'll just spend a couple of minutes answering that question. Happy to take it outside as well. But I think that's top of mind, right, for everyone. And we are currently serving regulated industries in financial services, in insurance, on our new what we're calling the Einstein platform, because we recognize that this is a problem, right? And what we've seen is customers, right, are facing two problems. One is if they try to do this on their own, right, they may not know what the best practices are. They may not have the skill set in-house. So that's where they're relying on platforms, like ours. And we have built, this layer. Like I said, what we're doing is we're, masking the data, right? Because, we're already GDPR compliant. We already have customers, right, in Europe, in India, in, California, where they have their own data privacy laws. So we're already storing that data. And if we didn't have that, we'd be basically out of business, right, as a B2B vendor. So because we're storing that data from customers, we built this, what we're calling the trust layer. So we do all of those processes, right, and we, are able to leverage these, third-party models, right, like OpenAI, with a zero, data retention policy. Right, so there's absolutely no data that's being stored with the LLM, and we provide that guarantee. Right, happy to go into more details, but that's where we spent the last 1 year building this gateway to ensure, right, that your data is protected. And just to add to that, how do we make sure that it's actually personalized, right? Is because we have your CRM data, right? We have data about your customers. We're able to then take the when we're generating the prompt, take the data from the CRM and personalize the prompt itself, right? So that it's not just a generic response that you're getting from the LLM.
Thanks. One last question, sir? Yeah, thanks. Okay, this is Anuj Pandey here, and I represent Kappa Aviation. My question is a slightly broader one because it's been dwindling for so long for me, and I'm just not able to find the right answer there. So, few things. The pace of change in technology is far outpacing the rate of adoption for these technologies. And now with Gen AI and LLMs, LAMs coming all across, this is going to skyrocket like anything. I mean, we keep on talking about, yes, we need to adapt ourselves, we need to upskill ourselves, but what's the pace of adoption that we're going to look at? And it's not just purely the technology adoption, but also the behavioral aspects which are involved into it. And considering the kind of organizations that we are all into, yes, the high-tech companies, they employ those adaptable resources to a large extent and technological resources. But for the ones which were not, how are really organizations really building up that game?
No, so very interesting question. And if you look at the technology adoption in India, mobile penetration is more than the laptop penetration, because we skip that kind of a journey, okay? See, a couple of things which are there. One is that you will hear a lot of technologies at one point of a time. Sometime back, there was a AR, VR, metaverses come in big way. Blockchain, you had heard, I think, a big way which have been there. So one, as an organization, you need to look at your business and see what technology makes sense to you. Technology is technology, as I mentioned to you. It's not good or bad, which is there. How you use it, that is one. Does it make any, basically, when I say sense, in the sense improvement to your any area of operation, whether it's the customer facing or the back office operation, what are the operation we're talking about. Second, once you learn the technology, okay, we don't have to train people on the technology. That is one which my experience tells. It is you need to have a core people who are trained on the technology, but what is the use of that technology? How they're going to use this technology? So when you talk about Gen AI and everything which have been there, okay, or LLM models which are there, you don't require everybody in the organization to learn those models. That is one. We need to look at that how it's going to improve my operation. Okay, what result is going to give it to me? You need to have a core IT team or you can outsource that. And if you see that nowadays, I think that's why most of the these technology companies move to the services. It is not that you need to install. I'll give you my experience in 90s when I started my career. To implement an SAP, which is right now, it took 2.5 years to implement an SAP in an organization, manufacturing organization. Nowadays, it's like 90 days, if you see that. And even you don't have to do that. There are a lot of IS which has come, industry basically offering which have been there. You just use that which have been there. So couple of things, one which are there. One, you need to have your core team trained on them, that is one. Second, you need to have awareness training that what this is going to create to your each operation, People can come out with the ideas, then you can use the technology there. That is second which have been. And third, I'm not saying it is the ideal solution. I'm saying one of the probable solution that look for the service provider who can come and basically quickly implement for that instead of building that capability inside. Okay. Of course, you need to do a proper due diligence how you're going to do about it. I'm not coming into that. But I think, as you rightly mentioned, technology is moving so fast, we never know tomorrow what's going to come. In my view, in the next 3 to 4 years, we'll see quantum. And that will change the way we basically compute all together, okay? That will change the security algorithm which we right now put in to protect our data. But of course, that is a problem for the future. But what I'm saying, we need to look at the people who are already there in the market and if they can help the organization. Instead of basically trying to build that competency in-house, that can be one of the solution. I'm not saying this is the only solution, but that can be one of the solutions which you can look into. Thank you.
Just to add on to that, one very small point, I think technology will keep on evolving, right? Like, so this is something which is not going to stop. We saw presentation, I think Manish presented this, or I may be wrong, but the way TikTok took 9 months to 1 million users versus ChatGPT taking 1 month to that kind of a thing. Very soon something will be there which will take a week or maybe less. The key to success out here is how nimble are you and what is the culture as an org you are having, wherein like it is driven that awareness from top and also from the bottom, right? Like, so from the ground level also, people challenging that something new is coming up, what can we do with that kind of a thing? Until unless we build that kind of a culture, it will be difficult to stay abreast in this moving ecosystem. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks a lot, everyone. I request if there is any further Q&A, please have it in the networking break, just for the matter of time. Thanks a lot, everyone, for sharing your thoughts. I request, for the felicitation, I request Mr. Rajesh Yadav, Deputy Director, Contact Center Partner Operations from Mahindra, to please join us on the dais. Can we have a huge round of applause for our moderator and panelists? I request to first felicitate Mr. Sunny Choudhary, our moderator for the day. Now Mr. Jitendra Bhardwaj, CISO, TATA Advanced Systems Limited. Ms. Aneela Sinha, Vice President of Operations at Aviva, India. Mr. Aakash Kumar, Vice President of User Experience at MakeMyTrip. Mr. Rajesh Bhardwaj, Head of Operations Control at Medanta. And Ms. Neeraja Sharma, Head of Customer Service and Operations, Sleep and Respiratory Care, Philips.